Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is another fine edition of the Common Constitutionalist podcast, and I am the Common Constitutionalist with a variety of topics to bring to you today. I don't even know if I'm going to get to them all, but whatever. So we got some Black Lives Matter. We got some Black Panthers. We got some, what else we got here? We got some transgenders nonsense. And we've got some radical Islam. So we got all that and tons of fun. That sounds like a lot of light topics to me. Today on the Common Constitutionalist.
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcast from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
We all know, at least any reasonable person knows from day one, from word go, the Black Lives Matter movement has been a complete and utter scam. It's basically run by radicals, for radicals, and all it does is seek to divide blacks and whites, people of color from people of no color, whatever. And every month that goes by, there's some sort of incident, either legitimate or more often not, that's made that they make hay out of, and they have I don't know if they have secret funding. I don't know who's funding these people, but they're all coming out in mass, and they've got signs, and a lot of them are pre-printed signs, and I don't know where they get the funding from, but it's probably some radical like George Soros, the Kingmaker, or somebody like that. I don't know, and I guess for now I don't care. But they just seem to be getting more and more radical. They're more and more off the wall, and they're attracting more and more dirtbags, for want of a better term. This is from Breitbart UK. And finally, I think for every segment I've got some attribution. Finally, I've remembered to do that after all this time. I've remembered to give attribution where it's due. Ridiculous. So as absurd as the Black Lives Matter movement has been, this basically takes it to new heights. Breitbart UK writes that Black Lives Matter supporters have claimed the deadliest terror attack in France was, dig this, to make people lose attention in their movement and focus on white lives instead. So the Nice attack, where 84 people and counting have died, a lot of people that are injured are actually on life support or are critical, and they could go at any time, so the likelihood is that more dead will be claimed. The terrorist attack was to deflect attention away from Black Lives Matter, from the black plight, to white people. That's what they're claiming? Yep, that's what they're claiming. Now, after the Nice attacks occurred, the Black Lives Matter, some of the radicals went to Twitter, and this is some of the these are just some of the buttes here. This guy, Franklin Omar, who is a black guy but also is a Muslim, okay, he tweeted, "Don't pray for Nice. We are fighting a civil war against whites." That's what he tweeted. These guys are so obsessed with their blackness, with their color. To say it's unhealthy is an understatement. They're just completely and absurdly obsessed with their blackness. It's like, you know how homosexuals, they always say, well, don't judge me. I'm not just gay. I'm a lot more. Well, these people are just black. That's it. That's all they are. That's all they identify as, and that's their whole lives, is being angry people of color. It's just absurd. They don't see anyone else as just human beings. It's just the color of your skin. It's absolutely ridiculous. And here's another friendly tweet after the Nice attacks. This one says, it's a woman, can't read her name, don't care. It's sad that a lot of you white people are praying for France on the internet, but don't say a word when black people get murdered. We don't say a word? Really? That's it? We're just moot and nothing's ever said. It's just swept under the rug, like you thrown out like yesterday's news. Nothing is ever said. Give me a break. And here is another one who is just completely obsessed by race and race alone. As sad as it is to hear about France, I'm even more sad now that the media will push at Black Lives Matter even further back in the queue. Give me a break. This was a tragedy in France. I mean, countless people died. It was just an unbelievable terror attack. And all you people can think of is that don't pray for them. Don't do anything for the people of Nice, France. Push them aside and only be concerned with Black Lives Matter. Give me a freaking break. Another one, terrorist attack in France, ... There goes at Black Lives Matter. Give me these people anger me so, and it shouldn't be this way. It's absurd, is what it is. It's absolutely absurd. It's insanity. And these people like Franklin Omar, the black Muslim, he's doomed, basically. Unless something occurs to cause him to leave this movement and get his head right, he's doomed. You know how Muslims in schools in Afghanistan, particularly the Palestinian kids and whatnot around Israel, they are brainwashed from a young age to hate the Israelis. Egyptian schools, Saudi schools, all these Muslim schools, they train these kids, they brainwash these kids to be anti-Semitic, to be anti-American, to be anti-anything but Muslim. And that I equate these to the Black Lives Matter people. They are so utterly and completely brainwashed that they are in fact brain dead. They're just drones that are sent out there to throw around this crap and this diatribe, and they're so ignorant that it's unbelievable. I feel sorry for them in a way, but what are you going to do? This is their whole lives. This is all they know is hate, and hate toward whites. For whatever reason, they've been brainwashed, and they've been, well, let's just say it, they've been radicalized, shall we? I hope the heck that someday something will cause these people to wake up to the fact that they don't have to hate everybody, all right? They don't have to really hate anyone. If you want to direct your hate at somebody, direct it at ISIS. Direct it at the people that are really trying to kill everyone else, including you guys. Okay? Black, white, Asian, Indian, American Indian, whatever, Hispanic, who cares? They don't care. They hate everyone and they want to kill everyone. We, on the other hand, I'll be the representative of the white race, for want of a better term. We don't hate all you people. Okay? We just don't. All right? We don't like the ignorance. I can't stand the ignorance. I can't stand the stupidity and the blind hatred for us for doing absolutely nothing. But until these people get their heads right, I don't think they stand a chance. This is they're going to be their whole lives until it all comes crashing down around them, and then maybe they'll get it straight. So let's take a break, shall we?
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist. Let the truth be known.
Okay, this next one comes to us from my buddy Tim Brown over at Freedom Outpost, and this is like Black Lives Matter on steroids. He writes, the People's New Black Panther Party is setting a goal of setting up their own government in a quote unquote our own government in a nation within a nation. This guy Babu Amawali, he's the self-professed National Minister of Defense for the people's new Black Panther Party, the Minister of Defense. He says they want to set up a new black nation within America, and it'll be composed of 5 states. They're all, obviously, they used to be slave states: Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, Alabama, and Georgia. And Defense Minister Amowali, I don't know, maybe that's how you pronounce it, whatever, said in an interview with reporter Aaron Klein, a quote, "We just need to start migrating back to those states and taking control of the economics in those states. If black people move in, most definitely white people will move out. So it's not a hard process for us to have our own country within a country," unquote. So they're going to try and they're going to outdo the Indian nations for sure. That's for if they take over 5 southern states, that's some doing, brother. Mr. Amowali he's actually the co-founder of the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. He owns a gun club. The self-professed national defense minister for the new Black Panther Party, and on their website, the part of the mission statement includes self-preservation, self-defense, and self-sufficiency. Ready? Through militant culture. I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound that good. It just doesn't. He continues, "We want freedom." Well, you're living in America, and you ain't going to get any freer than this, Jack, but whatever. "We want freedom. We want the power to practice self-determination." Again, hello, America. If you want the power to practice self-determination, I suggest you go to your Democrat leaders, of which you're probably at least used to be a supporter. Maybe they're just not radical enough for you. And talk to them about self-determination, because if you really wanted self-determination, you'd be a constitutional conservative. I'd like to say Republican, but we'll leave that out too. So I digressed a bit. He says, "We want freedom, we want the power to practice self-determination, and to determine the destiny of our community and the black nation." Okay. There are... I'm not gonna go there. The heck with it. Let's just continue, so I don't get myself in any hot water. So Klein, the reporter Klein, asked what the group's end game is, and Amowali replied, amongst other things. He said, "Okay, so we claim the states of Louisiana, we claim the states of Mississippi." I don't know what the states of Mississippi are. "We claim the states of South Carolina, we claim the states of Alabama, and we claim the states of Georgia." Okay, and do we claim the state of mine too? I don't know. So the bottom line, it sounds to me like the new Black Panther Party wants to conquer the old slave states. Now, does this sound familiar at all to you? Because it certainly did to me when I first read this. It sounds a little like, well, let's see. ISIS, that's right. ISIS, and they want to establish a caliphate. They want to reclaim the lands that they lost. They want to reclaim the lands of their ancestry. Sound familiar? Hello? And they want to do the same thing that ISIS is doing through immigration. They want to immigrate back to the southern states from whence they came, I guess. And they want to try to overwhelm we'll just say the indigenous peoples of the southern states, the people that are already living there, the native southerners, just like the ISIS members, just like the caliphate wants to overrun Europe and claim it as its own, and they want to get rid of the indigenous Europeans, or either drive them out or subjugate them, one or the other. He didn't mention anything about subjugation or a poll tax or anything like that, or second-class citizenry for the white folk who decide to stay in the southern states. I don't know. but maybe that'll be maybe that'll follow in the next interview. Amawali did confess that those are some long-term goals, and they're not sure that they're quite achievable in the short term. So for now, what they want to do, they understand, or he at least understands, that there's no way to totally separate ourselves from the United States of America, and we are aware of that. Wow, gee, brilliant guy. You're aware that you can't just conquer 5 states and secede from the Union? Huh, go figure. But he also said that we know that we are owed land, we're owed monies, we're owed restitutions, and we're owed reparations. Of course you are. And right now, all we want to do is control the economics in our community. Well, that's a terrific goal, but I don't know why you have to take over states in order to do that. Why don't you just do that in your own neighborhoods? You could easily do that in your own neighborhoods. Other neighborhoods do that. They basically control their own economy, but that's not what you want. You want to basically have a black nation that doesn't have to abide by any of the laws of whitey. That's the bottom line, is you want to do what you want to do. You want to live the way you want to live, and the heck with the rest of us. And he goes on to say that we want to control the politics in our community. If a politician is not bringing anything to the table for the betterment of that community, we are not going to vote for these particular people. Well, can I get a duh, Amawali? Can I get one for you, buddy? Because that sounds a lot like republicanism, that you elect representatives, and they are supposed to do your bidding, for lack of a better term, and if they don't do what you sent them up to wherever they're going to, the State House or to Washington, D.C., then you don't vote for them next time, and you get somebody who does have your community interest in mind. That sounds like old-fashioned constitutional republicanism, and boy, I'm sure that's not what you want to hear, is that it sounds like it's already been done by a bunch of dead white guys. Bummer. So I'd like to say I wish luck to Mr. Amawali and the rest of the new Black Panther Party for their conquering of the 5 southern states, but I'm not going to wish him luck. I wish, like Rush Limbaugh said of President Obama, I hope he fails. So there you go. I hope y'all fail. And we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Common Constitution. Let the truth be known.
All right. Welcome back, all you seekers o' knowledge. Let's transition from one happy topic. The new Black Panther Party wants to conquer the 5 southern states, throw all the whiteys out, and claim it as the new black nation. Let's transition from that happy topic to Islamic terrorism. Hooray! This one comes from it's probably my number one source for Islamism, the Clarion Project. And I have said this before, but it bears repeating. If you are not currently reading the Clarion Project, you need to read the Clarion Project for everything Islamist. You can actually find the link to it on the right side of my homepage, and just link to any of the articles there, and it'll take you right to the Clarion Project, and it is the go-to for everything Islamist. Well, it's not for everything. There are some other sites that are really, really good, Jihad Watch and things like that, but I don't want to get into it because I'm going to miss somebody. But the Clarion Project is really, it's muy bueno, shall we say. Yeah, man. So many around the world, certainly here in the States, are asking, and frankly in France, where they should be asking, after this last terror attack in Nice, people are starting to ask why France? Why France again? What's up with France? Why are they hitting France so hard? It doesn't make any sense. They're just one country out of many in Europe. They should be hitting Germany and Italy and all the other countries. Heck, Rome. There you go. But it seems to be concentrating in France. Why is that? Well, the Clarion Project has some reasons why that is, and it goes back to, again, history, of which the Islamic State, they are rabid fans, they are rabid readers of history, Islamist history. And after the attack, this latest attack in Nice, the Islamic State, who is very active on social media, took to social media and basically explained to the French people that they brought this on themselves. And that's no lie. The French didn't actually bring this on themselves, but ISIS thinks they did because of what they've been doing to combat ISIS. And the Clarion Project is writing this from they're explaining this from the point of view of the Islamic State, not from anyone's point, certainly not from mine, not from theirs, not from any reasonable person. It's through the eyes or through the looking glass of the Islamic State. This is the way they think of things. France is one of the only countries, first and foremost, France is one of the only countries that has been fighting the Islamic State and Islamists from day one. The Clarion Project writes that it was the first country in Europe to join America in bombing ISIS targets in Iraq, and so far has been the only European country to join airstrikes against ISIS in Syria, and also they're fighting Islamists in North Africa. And so ISIS has gone, they've tried their best basically to persuade or convince the civilian population of France that the war is about French foreign policy and not about reestablishing a global Islamic caliphate, which that's what it really is, but they're not going to tell you that. It's about they're fighting the French because of their policy. To some extent, that is right, because one of the Islamist beliefs is that whoever hits you, you've got to stand up to them. You've got to stand up to that particular person or that particular country. And so the French have been at the forefront of the battle against the Islamic State, and so they're hitting them back, particularly the French. Number two is France has specifically named the Islamist ideology as a problem. The French ambassador to America has stated unequivocally that we are at war with radical Islam. And they've stated that they're at war with Islamists wherever they are, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, even the Muslim Brotherhood. And they've stated this. And this is interesting. It's interesting that this is one of the reasons that they believe that because they're calling ISIS what they are as radical Islamists, that ISIS is hitting France specifically because of that. And again, this is written from their point of view, and it is accurate. But you know how we're always complaining about the Obama administration? No one ever utters those words. They never say radical Islam, ever. And you got to wonder, now that we know this little detail of the Islamic State and other Islamist organizations, could this be one of the reasons why that the administration isn't saying radical Islam? Because this would make us a larger target than we already are. I don't know. I'm not sure. I doubt it, because again, it goes back to the point that Obama grew up in Indonesia and went to Muslim schools for a period of time, and Muslims in Muslim schools, as we're well aware now, are all taught this kind of stuff. And so the rest of the administration, the rest of his administration, might be ignorant to the fact that they're striking out against countries that call them radical Islamists, But it sure seems to me that Obama would know this kind of stuff. But I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. That juxtaposition of our administration never uttering those words, and the French were one of the first to say that. Now, France is also making efforts to integrate Muslims into French society, kind of like a peaceful coexistence, and they're trying to establish this as the model for Muslims in European countries, and particularly in France, to kind of fully integrate them and make it compatible with the values of the French Republic. And this is, well, it's anathema to ISIS. They don't want anything to do with this. They are not compatible. You cannot integrate Islam with European republicanism or whatever, a democracy. It just doesn't work. And so they're fighting that too. So it's funny. When you hear the French and you hear the French military and whatnot, the only thing, if you recall World War II and the jokes about the French, the only thing they ever do is the only thing they ever seem to do is surrender. That's the first thing they do, is lay their weapons down and surrender to the enemy. And that's just not the case here. France is on the front lines of the war against radical Islam, and they have the courage to say it, and they're paying the price for it. Now, France also represents, probably more than any other country, kind of the Enlightenment period of Western civilization. And the Clarion Project writes that for an Islamic State obsessed with symbolism, an attack on France is an attack on European and Western Enlightenment values. And finally, as we are all well aware, the Islamic State is obsessed with history, and they're obsessed with honor. It's a warped sense of honor, granted, but they're obsessed with honor. And they're certainly obsessed with history, particularly the history of the Ottoman Empire, the history of the caliphates, the various caliphates throughout history. And the project writes that the Islamic State has a laundry list of grievances against France going back 1,000 years. ISIS always hates Europe, also hates Europe in general for its colonial past. Now, does this sound at all familiar? Not to tie the two together or anything. It just, I always think this is funny every time I hear of colonialism and the fact that the Muslims hate the colonialist Europeans, because our own president does the same, thinks the same. And the Islamic State, particularly, they blame France for the breakup of the Ottoman Empire and the abolition of the caliphate following the First World War. And it's also the early Islamic caliphate's advance into Europe was halted by France at the Battle of Tours in 732. And so they don't think for a minute that these guys don't know this stuff back and front. They know the history of the caliphate, and they know how the caliphates fell throughout history. And France was a big player throughout history. And again, this is one of the reasons, several of the reasons, why these guys are getting hit like no one else. So I really feel for the people of France, and the French citizens and France as a country. I've never been a big fan of France, but after doing more research and reading this type of stuff about France and how they've been tough on terrorism and how they're trying their best to get through this and to battle ISIS and to battle other Islamist radicals, you got to hand it to them that they're not giving up, they're not surrendering this time around, and they're taking the fight to these guys, and they're paying the price for it. And we could learn a lot by joining forces with these guys and kind of allowing them to, well, I hate to say, lead the way and just point in the right direction, because they're doing things right. The Islamic State is desperate, and they're going to be losing their caliphate, more than likely, the Islamic State. But that doesn't make them any less dangerous. It actually makes them more dangerous because of these one-off attacks, and they are all related. So I've got one other topic I've been droning on for far too long, so I think I'm just going to skip it. It was just about some little transgender nonsense that Target was once again hit by some transgendered guy, phony transgendered guy, that was taking pictures and video in a woman's dressing room in Idaho and got bagged for it. And bully for Target. Hooray for Target. So I think this is where I'm going to end, and y'all have a great balance of the weekend, and I'm out of here. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Common Constitutionalist Weekly Podcast.